And a good morning to you. Welcome inside the bottom line. We were just discussing interacting with other humans. And I'd like to say that I'm proud to classify myself as one of those humans. Sometimes that gets questioned, I promise. But that's what I like to say anyway. Glad to have you this morning. 27 degrees. Wasn't much frost this morning, though. Nice day. Yesterday was a nice day. Was it?
Yes.
I didn't notice as much on the cars this morning. I leave out about 5.
Yeah,
so,
right.
But now I have gotten in the habit when I get up and I get ready to go shave and do the teeth and get dressed, I walk to the kitchen and
remote start.
Yeah, buddy, remote start, get the car warmed up before it's time for the old man to go out there. I don't take the cold as well as I used to. They got me on the blood thinners, and that does make you cold on a regular basis.
I think G's your kid.
Why is that?
So we get in the truck this morning, take him to school just a few minutes ago. Dude comes out, he's got his New England Patriots toboggan on with a ball on top. Big old toboggan. Huge, thick sweatshirt, couple shirts underneath, a pair of shorts on.
That would be me.
I said,
I'm going to tell you, I was about to freeze Friday night. I'll be honest with you.
I said, where's your pants? He said, you couldn't pay me, and he's 11. You couldn't pay me enough money to wear pants. I said, Lady Ford's, God.
Good morning. And you know, yesterday when I got done with the regular business thing, that's the first thing I did was go home, get a long-sleeve T-shirt and my shorts, and then come back up here and work because that's who I am.
You got to be comfortable.
I am. That's just who I am.
Comfortably you.
That he was a hard-working man on Friday night. He was working working the ball on the sidelines.
Man.
He was a hard-working man. There's a little experiment getting ready to happen because I haven't done this before, but in typical wife fashion, my wife has another wild idea. She wants me to make some embroidered maiden toboggans with the Blue Devil.
Oh, absolutely.
The problem is, and she found a few. She was trying to get some in for Friday night if somebody wanted some, but the problem is getting them in. The last time I ordered cloth from one of my distributors, it took a week to come from Jacksonville, Florida.
That's crazy, dude.
So the only place that I know that I can get them kind of quickly is I have to go to Indian Trail and pick them up. So we got a few that we're going to have in. I've never done any of those, so we'll see how that turns out.
That's cool.
Richie said his oldest had a flag football game last week. The games were at 7 at night. Those were some cold nights standing there watching the games. Well, I was cold on the field Friday night, and I think the reason is because it was kind of damp, and the ground was a little wet, and it's about 40 degrees, and my feet were froze. But I stayed out there. I stayed. I went up at halftime and got warm and came back out. But I stayed there, and then when Maiden scored that last touchdown, I'm like, I'm out of here.
I didn't see you.
Not after that, I promise. No, they scored. I sent a text to my crowd up in the stands, and I said, I'll be in the truck.
Love all
Y'all
of
come
you.
on when you want, but I'm going to the truck. And I did. I went to the truck. And, of course, they were right behind me because they had seen enough too.
Hey, what did kids come up
I'm
to?
sorry. They're actually for my sister-in-law.
Ah, very nice.
Angie.
Lovely Angie. So,
And they got ordered, honey. I'll pick them up today.
Yes.
And you know, Angie, it's a last-minute thing. Oh, it is. It is. I know. I always wait to the last minute. Is there any way you could do me some shirts last night? No. I'll try to do you some today, but I can't do them last night. But that's Angie. It's okay.
Hey, man, I've known her since she's a kid. She's fantastic, dude.
Me too. She was still in high school when I came along.
Love her death.
Milton said those blood thinners will freeze you. Absolutely, they will freeze you.
Hey,
Yes.
one of the kids come up to me, right, they run out of the tunnel, and come up the sideline. He came up to me and said, Coach Irma, you okay? I said, yeah, man. I said, I'm fantastic. What's wrong? He said, well, you just look stiffer than normal. I said, brother, I've got on about 7 layers under all this.
Yeah.
I said, if there's one thing I'm not doing anymore for anybody, and that's being cold for 2.5 hours. Sometimes 3 the way we sling it around. So that's where we're at.
I had on a long sleeve T-shirt, and I had on a sweatshirt, and then I had on my big coat over there.
Oh, you were comfortable.
Yeah,
I saw
and I was fine.
Yeah,
I was okay. Couldn't keep the feet warm, and I don't have any like wool
You know
socks
what I
or
do,
thick
though?
socks.
Seriously, I learned this. I put on a pair of my church socks. You know, they're a little thinner, right? You know, or maybe some of my dress, suit socks. Okay,
I don't have any of those.
And and then I'll put on some like regular black footies, like Under Armour or whatever I've got. You know, it doesn't have whatever. And for whatever reason, that keeps the heat in.
In case you're wondering, okay,
I don't know.
we went at the Hall of Fame banquet on Saturday night. We went non-tie.
You emceed that, didn't
Okay,
you?
yeah,
Fantastic.
I got drafted there about 3 years ago. We went non-tie. Keever said, I don't think I'm going to wear a tie tonight. I said, well, if you're not going to wear one, I'm not going to wear one. I said, I'll bring one with me in case we feel bad. And we got down there and nobody had a tie on. Just a couple of the recipients had a tie on.
Yeah, no,
but I had
not
on the jacket and the button-up shirt and the slacks. Yeah. Still had the footies on. The footies are standard attire for me. I don't care. I don't have any other socks. They're footies. I'm a footy guy. But yeah, there was. I don't do dress socks. I've only got the funeral suit. That's it. You know, I don't. I'm not much for the dressing up type. I saw this morning, and I wanted to mention this. Christian McCaffrey, who may be one of the greatest players ever. If you watched that game last night, Troy made a statement, and it's never a truer statement. If McCaffrey, when he came out, if they had immediately put him in the slot, okay, he could have carried the ball and caught the ball and been a Pro Bowl player and dominant and probably had an extended career because he didn't punish his body. But he don't have but one speed. One speed, that's all.
W-A-O.
Wide open. But I tell you that because his dad just got fired from Northern Colorado.
Yeah, I mean, what are you going to do, man? I mean, who are you going to recruit?
To Northern Colorado?
I mean, what are you going to say? Oh, it's a beautiful time of year. You know, all this, all that. I mean, let's be honest. Saban and Dion would have a rough time.
Yeah.
At Northern Colorado.
In the big sky. Out in the big sky. He had two sons working for him. And, of course, Christian, his third son, is running back with the 49ers. He played 13 seasons in the NFL for Denver, 49ers, and the Giants. He coached Valor Christian School in Highlands Ranch, Colorado, and went 24-2, including a state title in 2018. But and I'm pretty sure when one of the things that you can say about kids, the apple don't fall far from the tree.
No.
Okay, and if you've ever been around Christian McCaffrey, he came from pretty good bloodline there. So Big Ed was but she was an athlete too. But I'm just saying, from a personality, just the way they act and treat people, I can't imagine that Ed wasn't doing the best that he could with what he had to work with.
Yeah, and they're another one of those conferences that decided not to play during COVID.
And they didn't.
Yeah, I mean, I think they are.
They are.
Remember.
No, they are.
Okay.
They canceled it. Yeah.
And kids, what you got to remember is, I was looking at a baseball post last night from I can't remember, it was like 1918 or 1909. And, all the guys there playing, had masks on. People go places to do things. They don't go and sit and wait. Now, there will be some that say, yeah, but we were in a pandemic. You can't go. I'm not questioning that. What I understand. I mean, duh. Okay. But the point is, people, because things happen, they just don't want to stop their lives because of some.
The best picture is from a Georgia Tech game, and that may be the one you're referring to. There was a Georgia Tech football game.
I saw one in baseball, but
okay.
I know the one you're.
And the guys are sitting there in suits. Men wore suits to college football games.
Right.
Had a mask on, but they still went out there and played.
Yeah.
It was, I thought that was interesting. Another story that I saw: West Virginia fired Shane Lyons.
Yes, saw it.
He's unemployed about 3 days, and he has been hired by the University of Alabama. The University of Alabama. Athletic Director Greg Burns said Monday that Lyons has been hired as Executive Deputy Athletic Director and Chief Operating Officer. He led the program for 8 years, and during the program's worst stretch in more than 40 years.
Listen, you can't sit there and that's like looking at Maryland and saying, "Oh, why are you not winning?" Well, you took us out of the ACC and put us in the Big Ten. What do you want us to do?
Yep.
It's
amazing to me. Now, I don't know what's going to happen.
Sometimes knowing who you are and where you are is a great thing.
Yep.
Even though you might not like it.
Yeah. Let's see.
You try to be as nice as you can about things, but it's always more important and appropriate to lead with truth.
Yep.
That's why, serving on some of these boards and, people say, well, what do you think about this? And I just look at them. It's like when I was on council. Somebody get up and talk. You're not supposed to really talk back to them. Just let them do it. Let me tell you something. When I'm there to serve, I'm not there to be quiet, okay? You need to know exactly where people stand. Yeah, I remember somebody coming in one time saying this, that, and the other, this, that, and the other. And they said, what do you think about it? Todd Herms was like, just hold on. I said, thank you for asking. I appreciate you being here tonight. Thank you for, coming and saying all the things you did. I 100% disagree with everything you said. But I said, do you have any other questions for me? I was nice, but don't ask.
That wasn't a political
answer.
answer. That wasn't a political.
But
I've always said that. Do not ask my opinion unless you want me to tell you my opinion. And sometimes you can ask my wife. You don't even have to ask my opinion. I'll give it to you anyway.
It's like years ago, I invited a couple guys over to the house that were upset about some things going on in the town was doing. I just wanted to listen to them. So I listened to them. I said, what about this one? I said, listen, I appreciate you coming in, but I 100% disagree with everything that you said. They're like, well, I said, I've invited you into my home. I've listened to you. What else you got?
That's all you can ask for.
Well, that's all.
All you can ask for is to listen to what my concerns are.
I have no problem listening, but that doesn't mean I'm going to agree.
That's right.
And, the thing that I can't stand about some people that are manipulators is they try to say, we both know that this, that, and I'm like, listen, when you're talking to me, just tell me things. Don't try to persuade me into your idea. Give me the facts, okay, or your narrative, and then we can decide if that is what's in the best interest.
The only thing that we both know is that we can agree to disagree.
Sure.
That's it. That's the only thing that
most
we
people
both
don't
know.
want to do that. But see, Lanny,
okay.
think of it like this. You can put 10 red ants in a clear jar and 10 black ants. And if you put them in there together, they're fine. But if you sit there and shake them, guess what they're going to do? They're going to fight. The main purpose of that story is don't let anybody shake the jar.
That's right. No,
okay?
You're right.
Okay?
You're right.
All right, I'm done with that. Let's get back to sports.
Okay, wasn't just Angie. Becky got in on the ordering, too. I'm glad I can service everyone. Richie said it's a beautiful time of year in Colorado until it snows so deep you can't get your car dug out.
Like Buffalo.
Like Buffalo, yeah.
Holy cow.
Yeah, you're right, Milton. Big Ed McCaffrey was a great player. A great player. Richie said 2 coaching move rumors going around last night. Deion being mentioned for 2 jobs, Colorado and South Florida. Deion is not leaving where he's at till it's a Power 5 job. I'll just go ahead and tell you that.
Yes.
And Colorado, it's not a Power 5 job any way you want to slice it. Also hearing that Kiffin to Auburn is a done deal. I'm hearing the same thing on that. Kiffin, however, posted a picture of some light reading. It was a picture of the history of the Egg Bowl. Milton said, I didn't see Robbie Anderson breaking any records last night.
Yeah, nor will you.
Stephen Lowe, good morning. Go Big Blue.
Good morning.
We were talking about and did not realize last night till we did a little research. If you were listening, Maiden's opponent this weekend, Maiden and Reidsville have never met.
Correct.
East Lincoln and Kings Mountain
have
never met.
That's interesting to me.
Well, the reason we talked about that
That's
on
very
Saturday, East Lincoln was 3A one time before North Lincoln was a school.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
But they were in that Gaston County League,
right.
And Cleveland County League was still separate.
By itself because it had RS. RS is still 3A
That's
at the
correct.
time. And
so they've never
East
met
Rutherford
and never
was.
met in the playoffs. Now, Juju was asking me, he said, was Kings Mountain ever 4A?
No.
Not to my knowledge.
No.
They've always been 3A.
Yes.
Always been 3A.
I can, and that's as far back as I can go. And I remember that.
And I have made some trips to Reidsville back in the Lincoln run, back in the day, covering them with radio.
Yep.
But Reidsville did not know this. Good morning, Ronnie from the Outer Banks. You got to move down there, buddy. You're always down there.
No.
He's
just
always
go down
there.
Fish, man. He ain't moving down
He's
there.
always down there.
That's my guy, man.
So here's the thing. Reidsville has the most state championships in football in North Carolina.
Yeah.
22, if I'm not mistaken, and they've been 28 times.
Yep.
That's pretty impressive. Now, they've got a Hall of Fame, and I thought this was interesting as well. Reidsville High School football has a Hall of Fame, but it's not just Reidsville players. There was a Grover T. Washington Buffaloes High School back before desegregation.
My dad told me about it.
And they included them even before there was segregation in the Hall of Fame, which I think was absolutely awesome.
Yeah, so before they did a lot of, it was, segregated at that time. But there's also a lot of smaller schools up going towards, my dad grew up in Mebane, but going up the kind of like a northwest angle, you go to Reidsville, which is not that far away. But Dad was telling me that, basically in every town, there was, another high school, that the kids, and Dad said there's a lot of like really interesting history that has been lost.
Well, in Hickory, was it Ridgeview?
Yeah, the one that Bob posted on. Yeah. Oh, that's incredible.
In Lincoln, it was Newbo.
Okay.
Newbo High School, which is now G.E. Massey, but that was the old Newbo High School back in the day.
And Dad was just telling me that, there's so much history there, based on, and the kids never got to play each other.
Right.
He said now they would play in the, like, playgrounds and ballparks because kids are kids.
Kids didn't know any different.
They don't care.
That's right.
Dad said when he was growing up in Mebane that, they would, everybody got together and they played. They fought. They played it, Dad said it wasn't nothing to have just, they divide teams up, and it wasn't based on anything except who got picked.
That's right, yeah.
Okay? And he said, go at it for a while, and all of a sudden, fisticuffs. And they break it up eventually, and they get back to playing.
But it had nothing to do with color. It was about the game.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. He said it was just,
competitiveness.
He said it was just all the time, those kids were playing.
Yeah.
And I just think that, that it would be so nice and wonderful, kind of things you were talking about just a minute ago, if we could learn more about the history and culture of that time that has been lost or not shared.
I don't remember. I think it was called Highland, but when I was at Highland, before I started the football program, before the football program was brought back, do you know who the last quarterback at Highland was before they merged?
Holy cow, no.
Okay. I'm going to let you think about that, and I'm going to take a break, and I'll tell you when I come back.
Untangling your headphones, finding the right remote, saying goodbye to your favorite shirt that hasn't fit in 10 years. Why are simple things sometimes so complicated? Thankfully, with auto owners, insurance doesn't have to be one of them. Auto Owners works with independent agents who live in your community and answer when you call, so you can worry about more important things, like finding a new favorite shirt. That's simple human sense.
Call Mooney Insurance in Maiden or East Lincoln Insurance in Denver or visit MooneyInsurance.com.
Times convenience stores are more than convenient. They're your neighborhood store, your store. With locations in Lincoln, Catawba, Gaston, Iredell, and Mecklenburg counties, there's one near you. Times convenience stores have the right items at the right price, from snacks, cold drinks, and light meals from the grill, and there's always a special to save you time and money. Times has what you need. Times convenience stores, there's one near you. Regardless of where you're going, there's one on your way. Remember, there's always time to stop by Times. Have you thought about when you would like to retire? One of your major assets is planning for retirement is time, and you lose a little of it each day. The longer you wait to start accumulating capital for retirement, the harder it's going to be. How should you plan for retirement? Start by calculating approximately how much capital you will need at retirement, then estimate how much you will have to put away each year. Finally, carefully choose the investments in which you will invest. Stifel Nicholas can assist you. Call Ford Rembert today at 828-624-7300. Stifel Nicholas, member SIPC, and the New York Stock Exchange. First Federal Savings Bank has been serving Lincoln County since 1940. And as it has been from the beginning, customer service is a priority to First Federal Savings Bank. They want to get to know you by name. First Federal Savings Bank has the convenience, the products, and the services that the larger banks have, but with hometown people that you see throughout your community. Stop in and visit one of their 4 convenient locations and see what First Federal Savings Bank has to offer you. Member FDIC, an equal housing lender.
Whether it's a sit-down meal or a call-in for the drive-thru, Brookwood Cafe and Catering is the answer. A variety of meats, vegetables, and desserts cooked daily, or a hot sandwich from the grill, they have what you're looking for to satisfy your taste buds. If you need catering from 5 to 500, Brookwood has you covered as well. Stop by Brookwood Cafe and Catering at 202 Providence Mill Road in Maiden. Don't forget breakfast daily till 11 a.m. Open Tuesday 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., Wednesday through Saturday 6 a.m. till 8 p.m., and Sunday from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. Call 828-428-8944 to place your order today.
Covenant Church began as a vision of just over 100 people in 1984. Since then, Covenant Church has grown and currently located at 2168 Gastonia Highway in Lincoln. The Sunday schedule includes early morning worship at 8:30, Sunday school at 9:45, and morning worship at 10:45. Their ministries extend beyond Sunday. Visit their website at www.covenantchurch.church to see all they have to offer, and better yet, stop by and see for yourself. Covenant Church may be just what you're looking for a new church home.
If you ask around, you'll find Burke Mortuary has a reputation for excellence and commitment to value. They've built a reputation of trust for more than 35 years. Burke Mortuary is proud to offer personal attention, meaningful tributes, and the area's most affordable prices. They're also proud to offer you beautiful, state-of-the-art facilities. It's the perfect place to honor your loved one. So when choosing a funeral home, the choice is easy. Choose Burke Mortuary with locations in Maiden and Newton.
In the best of times, no one is more deserving of every opportunity, encouragement, and support than the youth in our communities. Parents, teachers, coaches, and sponsors struggle to stretch their budgets to continue help. Communities need a team effort. Times Oil Corporation, a longtime member of the community, established the Times Educational Alliance Mission, or Team Foundation. Since 2011, over $125,000 in grants have been donated in the community. Times Oil and the Team Foundation are proud to be community partners.
And welcome back. Glad to have you here on a Tuesday morning. There will be no Bottom Line Thursday or Friday. Thursday, of course, is Thanksgiving. Friday, I've got to do a live remote at Bean Brothers Hardware, formerly Carolina Hardware, down in Lincoln from 9 to 1.
Whoa.
So I'll be down there broadcasting live. You'll come by and get you a Dairy Queen hot dog or a Subway sub. We didn't get City Lunch was already booked. We used to get City Lunch hot dogs, but come on by. They got great Black Friday deals going on down there this weekend.
That'll be a great place to go shop this weekend.
Thank you, Bob. Bob knew Leonard Hamilton. Did you know that?
The coach at
Florida State.
Leonard Hamilton from the area, but
was
I didn't
the
know
last
that. Dude, that guy is
graduating.
Great, man.
You talk about a great record. The records he set at the old Highland High School.
Dude, I would let my kid go down there and play for it. I told Quinn, I said, look, there's like 10 coaches across the country in different sports that I would basically sign you over to because I know that your life would be better because of them. And Leonard Hamilton's one of them.
Oh, I'm telling you. You know, I mean, he's a class act. Now,
Dude,
I'm going to tell you a story without telling you.
Good dude, man.
Without throwing a whole lot of people under the bus.
All right.
Okay. When Highland was trying to build some resources and some facilities,
Go ahead.
Leonard was in town, and a former principal there that I absolutely despise tried to strong-arm me. Yeah, tried to strong-arm him.
Yeah.
Leonard brushed him off like a fly on his sleeve.
Oh, yeah.
Instead of handling it the way he should have, because Leonard would have probably been willing to help and do some things.
Oh, sure he would have.
Leonard's a great guy.
Yeah,
just
I mean,
a great guy.
well,
he was,
you can tell.
He was the last quarterback
That's
at
really
Highland
cool.
before that place was restarted.
I got a family member that worked there with that particular person you despise, and it was probably the worst experience she ever had.
Now, I didn't know that, Richie. Richie said he was at Gaston College back when Gaston College had athletics.
Oh, that's cool.
And I'm trying to think, Johnny Calvert, if I remember some of Mike Powell's articles that he wrote back when Gaston College started and had athletics, I think Johnny Calvert played down there for Lincoln in baseball.
That's cool.
Shelton said Reidsville used to be in the East because East played them in the state championship one year. That whole corridor through there, Burlington, Cummings, Reidsville.
It goes back and forth.
Dudley,
numbers.
That line can
switch.
They could be
in either.
Yeah.
It was crazy. Who said that? I can't read the
Shelton Abernathy.
Okay, yeah. So, thanks for saying that.
And I had forgot about it, but those schools along that line. And I'll tell you this, Shelton. When I was at Highland and we went to the playoffs, do you know who we played in the West? We played Lakewood High School, which is 30 miles east of Fayetteville.
Oh, yeah.
That was our first round game.
1A, right?
That was our first round game.
It was interesting because there were years when Avery County, just an example, would have to go and play.
Oh, my God.
South Columbus or Whiteville when Whiteville was 1A.
In the West.
And South Columbus, and that like South Columbus White would be number 1 in the West.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just giving an example.
Yeah.
And it's because of the number of schools. They just had to do what they had to do.
Right. But Reidsville and those schools through there, Reidsville, Walkertown, even as far west as Greensboro.
Yeah, they go
Greensboro,
either way.
they can be either way.
But now they've got defined lines, Laney. So now the lines are defined.
And I like that.
If you're on this side, this is where you are. If you're on this side,
I've always thought it needed to be that
my
way.
thing is, why, and I know it's because of connectivity, but why not do a north and south instead of east and west? You know why? Because you really know where to draw the northern line.
Oh, I know.
But no, I'm just saying, that would be just interesting.
Yeah. Andrew said Bandy's played them twice and Newton once. Yeah. Well, I went
Didn't work
through
out
the
well for
list.
anybody.
I went through the list. Bandy's lost to him 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My dad was talking about that. He was working at Bandy's at that time,
Mm-hmm.
finishing up his teaching career. Michael White was the principal. Of course, Coach Loman, Randy Loman, was the head coach. And Dad was talking to Coach Loman, said, he said, Tim, he said, as good as we are, he said, Reidsville's just that much better. And he said, you know what? It's one of those things you go out and you play as hard as you can.
Yeah.
And, you coach your kids and hey, it is what it is.
Well,
he said it's not a scheme thing with them.
And Bandy's was a power team.
Yeah.
Reidsville's based on speed, like Shelby and some others.
Sure. Kind of like our team this year.
Yeah.
If you watch us, it's just quick strike, explosive.
That's right.
Those kind of things. And see, now the thing that's crazy with us is Alec Hall's healthy or getting healthy.
Right.
So we can put him out at receiver too, and he's arguably
adds to the arsenal.
Yeah, second fastest guy on the team. And Raheem's come out of nowhere. Well, I say out of nowhere. He's just, he ain't been much of a football guy before. Now he's, it's just getting
number 6.
Really, really strange. So a great kind of strange.
Rich said, I know Hamilton is a good dude. Seen him in many interviews and listened to him talk. Big fan. However, just in looks, I always thought he could possibly murder someone and walk away without sweat. He's a large man.
Yeah, and
I mean,
he walks in a room.
Yes,
and
there's a presence.
Now his girth, he's a big guy.
Yeah.
But he's been there. He walks in the room, he owns it, and he doesn't have to say anything
from what he's accomplished in life.
No, you can look at him and say, you know what, this dude right here's got it going on.
This is a guy that's been
big fan,
been an NBA head coach,
loves
Power 5. A college coach. You're exactly right.
The way he interacts with his kids.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He and you know what? He's got him. I mean, and I got to tell you, man, every one of those kids on that team last year, the way he interacts with them, it didn't matter if that kid didn't go in at all. He had some kind of interaction.
Yes.
With each kid throughout. I watched him. I thought, this is a good guy to watch.
It's kind of like Florida State. There were some times when they had thought about maybe dismissing him. Well, you're not going to get anybody that's as good as he is.
Why would you do
because
that?
They can't understand who they are.
They made a big mistake doing it with the football coach years ago, right?
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, come on, man.
Andrew said he covered all of those games with WNNC. None of them were close, and Reidsville had the shiniest gold cleats he had ever seen in my life. Yeah. When I was in high school, my junior and senior year, I wore red cleats because in honor of L.C. Greenwood, who used to wear the gold cleats for the Steelers. Now, the only difference was we only had black Rydales. That's all they made, with changeable cleats. So we had to go to the hardware store and get a can of red spray paint, and we painted our shoes. We painted our shoes every Friday.
That's
so
cool.
we had we actually wore Coach Bean bought us red socks one time. We wore the tall red socks with gray lines.
Out there, man.
Oh, yeah, we didn't have anything else we could do. That's it. sorry. I just thought I'd bring that up.
That's fantastic.
I love my home school, though. I love them. The Tennessee, and I've said this before, college football, 2 games scare the crap out of me, and it's South Carolina and North Carolina. And, Andrew, I'm going to hurt your feelings, but I'm not sure that we can win either one of those because those 2 teams can score like we can. And I'm not sure we can outscore them.
Where's the game being played?
I think South Carolina's and Columbia, isn't it, Andrew? And then the ACC championship game, I guess, will be in Charlotte.
But I'm talking about the South Carolina.
I think
game
it is
at South
Michelle
Carolina.
Thompson does pictures.
Yes.
We were talking on Friday night.
Yeah.
She said, "Guess where I'm going to be next weekend?" She's covering that game. The Clemson and
right.
South
Yeah,
Carolina
she
game.
was telling me
Now
about
she's a
that.
Gamecock fan because most of her family went there,
Yeah.
and then she's Andrew said it's at Clemson.
Okay.
She's originally from Charleston. That's where her family's from.
that's cool.
So that's why they're Gamecock fans. It's at Clemson. Thank you, Andrew. It concerns me. I'm just being really honest here, but Tennessee lost their quarterback, but the part that bothers me is South Carolina hung 63 on. 63 points.
So where's the kid that didn't they have a defensive player that didn't play in the game
Where?
for
Tennessee? I think that was the Jeremy Banks, linebacker Jeremy Banks, declined to comment on what kept Jeremy Banks out of the game. We anticipate Jeremy being with us here this week. As far as what transpired, those type things, at the end of the day, he was not available. Heupel said when asked if Banks had been involved in an altercation with a teammate that led to him being disciplined. And, I'm sure he's not going to talk about that kind of thing.
No.
But Tennessee gave up 600 yards, the total offense.
Yeah, I mean, not one guy's responsible for that.
No.
But because it's a momentum thing too. And then you start pressing and nothing works. You start trying to come up with pressure schemes and nothing works. The kid, the grunt and the grind of everything. I mean, it's a snowball.
Yeah.
So it's not about the 606 yards. It's about the first 300 they gave up, not the last 300.
Now, the important thing for Tennessee, I didn't think they were there for this year. They're going to get there. But Tennessee can clinch their first 10-win regular season since 2003.
Yeah.
That's almost 20 years.
Yeah, it is.
That Tennessee's had double-digit wins.
It's been awful, and he's done a great job.
And first overall since 2007. Even 10 wins on the season, it's been 2007.
Laney, and two, there's certain teams that you match up well with and certain teams that you don't. Mm-hmm. And just because you may not, just because you may match up well with this team doesn't mean that you match up well with, a team that's not as good as a team you're playing. Mm-hmm. And it is about matchups. And people say, no. Let me tell you something. It is proven,
yes,
okay, and not just a narrative. But when you talk to successful people in any line of business or any line of work or any line of life, they will tell you that 80% of it is mindset.
Oh, yeah.
And 20% is skill and talent. Now, you will have those that will be quick to say, great players make big plays. Well, that's why they're great players. Tell me something else. Mm-hmm. All right, the way those great players become champions is through their mindset.
That's right.
Okay. And it has, and nothing is truer with any team. Reidsville talking about how good they've been for so long. Mm-hmm. Their mindset is kind of like when teams come to play Maiden and you see them coming out of the tunnel, with the smoke or whatever. It's just a mindset that kids at Maiden have.
Most important thing in anything is that 6 inches between your
ears. And that's
ears.
what I'm saying. So it's an 80-20 rule.
Yeah.
And what I try to help people understand is that, you do the things that help you get to where you are, right? Without, and you don't make wholesale changes on things very quick. Successful programs, successful businesses, successful people are very quick to make decisions and very slow to implement the changes. All right, that doesn't mean they don't implement changes, but they do it very slowly, not to disrupt the continuity
But
of
once
what's
they've
going
decided to make the change, they want to think through how they're going to implement that so
Right.
they don't miss something in the change.
Exactly. And so, it's just one of those things that, the 80-20 rule is very, very, very true. And, I based on personal experience, I can't tell you that there's nothing about that rule that I can disagree with. Nothing.
Rich said if Carolina plays like they did against Georgia Tech, Clemson will stomp a mud hole in them. They're not going to play like that, though, because Mike is back, just in case y'all didn't know. Lincoln said, so glad to see Carolina get beat by Georgia Tech. Shows how overrated they are. They're not as much overrated as there's a lot of individuals on that team, and they don't play responsibility a lot of times, and they start pressing, well, this guy's not doing – and high school's the world's worst, getting kids to play responsibility.
That's right.
Andrew said, if Rattler can pull that rabbit out of his hat 2 weeks in a row, then I'll hand it to him.
Yeah, Andrew's right, though. Rattler was –
when he's on, though.
Yeah, he was dialed in,
Yeah.
and he's a better guy than people think he is. Like, he's a good teammate. People like him. His teammates like him.
Right.
He had a lot of style stuff going on when he came out of high school, but he's a kid. To me, things like that at times may get out of hand. Whose fault is that?
Yeah.
Whose fault is it? It's the parents' fault.
That's right.
Or lack thereof.
Yeah.
Okay? So we got to make sure that, remembering that they are young adults. They're not kids. They're young adults.
That's right.
And they're going to make mistakes like we all did. And you have to be immature before you can be mature. And how quickly you can get to a successful set is how mature you can be and navigate those situations.
Richie said his niece is a senior in Columbia and that the game was at the game. She said it was crazy. Absolutely, I can imagine. Lincoln said they had several defensive players out of the game. Well, that's just the way that it is. Rich said the question was Satterfield calling plays for the Chickens? The offense didn't look like it had all year. UNC and Drake May worry him a whole lot more than South Carolina. They've just been more consistent. Todd said a lot of sites have Carolina playing Vols in a bowl.
Yeah.
I was really hoping for Carolina, Texas, but
that
that'll
happened.
happen.
Yeah.
Some of the predictions for Clemson and Alabama to meet in the Orange Bowl, which it has nothing to do with playoffs, but that would be a matchup. And that would be a New Year's Six as well. Lincoln said Maiden gets the most out of their players like Summerville, South Carolina, and Shelby. They expect to win all the time. Yeah. And that's going back to what you said. That's that mindset. Yeah. I just said that this week. Maiden teams have continued to progress. It took them a while to develop their identity, but I really think they have it now, and they believe who they are.
Yeah.
And we talked about that earlier. When do you peak? You want to make sure you don't peak too early. You gotta keep growing as you get close to the playoffs. Rich said I watched the Carolina safety bite on on the quarterback and not cover the running back coming into the flat.
That's right.
He could never make the adjustment because he was pressing, like you said. The running back in the flats killed Carolina.
Yeah.
Carolina, and it's more so, I think, on defense than offense.
It's 100%
on responsibility. They don't play responsibility. And when you don't, and that goes back to what I've said before, I'll take a kid that's less talented athletically for a kid that's more coachable so I can teach the responsibility side and maybe make a difference in the play instead of pressing and doing the wrong thing.
No, you're right. Let me share a rocket science moment with you, okay? So anytime you run an even, odd, which means an even front, an even level two, and then an odd backfield, okay, there's going to be areas through formation that you can manipulate. Now, one might say fairly, yeah, but that's true in any formation. Well, none is more so true than in an even, odd, even front, second level's even with two linebackers, and then 5 in the back, okay? And so what happens is you can manipulate through sliding backs out or H-backs going empty in the backfield. You can slide them out in the flats based off of, blocking concepts. All right, when you think you got 6-man protection, all of a sudden it's 5 and he slipped out. And I'm just giving a very elementary example here, okay? That's part of the problem with trying to reinvent the wheel instead of standing up there in a balanced defense. Now, some people fairly can say, and I'm always open to criticism on this, no problem, I'm just talking out loud. People might fairly say, yeah, but when you go with an odd front and then an even second level.
5-2.
Basically, 5-2, 3-4. Yeah, but, if people overload one side, then they're over there and taking advantage. The whole point is to be able to have every zone covered, whether you're running man or zone, right? But the field's divided up into I divide it up into 8 different zones when I'm doing my stuff. There's basic 3, there's hash, middle hash, right? And then I divide it up into 5 more based on where we are down, distance, and position, okay? But the point to all this is that when you run an even odd, there are places that can be manipulated, and in theory, everything's supposed to be okay. But if you got a corner, like in a 4-2-5, this pressing, all right, but yet he has to carry that wide out on the single receiver side, everything is open because there's no alley defender on that side because everybody else is over there on the 3 receiver side. Okay? So there's manipulation that can happen through all of these things. Now, again, I'm not saying that Carolina's not doing a good job. That's not what I mean. I'm just saying these are things – there's a reason the offensive coordinators in the ACC and SEC and pro football are there, okay? And they can see these things. And, in the end, somebody might say, well, it's all about the players and making plays. Well, that's true, but they got to be in the areas.
Somebody's got to put them in the right position.
They got to be present to make the play.
They got to be put in the right position.
And that doesn't mean that they don't make up for bad decisions or bad coaching or whatever. I know my players do it all the time. Our kids keep winning despite the bad coaching on my end. All right, but the point to that is, that you have to recognize those things and understand what your team is capable of, and then maybe make the necessary adjustments so you don't lose a game you're supposed to win.
That's the key. Richie said the defensive line is dead last in the ACC and at the bottom of FCS with quarterback sacks. They're
not allowed to be an attack style up front defense. Right. Richie's right. I'm not defending him. What I'm saying is that's where it's more dependent on level 2, right? Than level 1.
Mm-hmm. But that
guys,
that
this
could
is
be
war.
But
your infantry has to go in and start taking things. They've got to go in and pick things off.
Not if you don't have
exactly. Then you got your tanks, all right, that come in and start blasting stuff, and then your third shell is your Air Force, all right, or Navy shooting from sea, coming in and bombarding things. I don't know.
I always said on defense when I was at Bunker Hill. And we made some changes and got out of the 52. Ed Klink was still defensive coordinator. And we were trying to get out of that. Well, you could go to a 4-3 or a 3-4, but you make that decision based on, do I have 4 great linemen or 4 great linebackers? That's what determines your personnel. It doesn't matter what scheme you run. Do you have players in those positions that can do that job? So that's how you determine. And, of course, there's not a whole lot of difference between a 5-2 and a 3-4. It's basically the same thing because unless you don't walk off the backside in or backside back or those kind of things.
That's it.
But I think I told you when I was coaching, because we were kind of limited in our football knowledge, we ran a cover 2 roll, which basically we lined up in a cover 2, and pressure showed we rolled. So we still had 3 deep all the time. And if you beat me on the backside flats because I was so slow and you could throw it all the way across the field and I couldn't get there, I need to get beat anyway.
Yeah, that's fine.
That was that was the only place that we would be open. Richie says Chiswick plays a bend, don't break, but keeps everything in front of you. Don't allow the big play. He wants to get pressure with the front 4-5. They don't get the pressure, though. I need to sit down with Ford to look at that, look at this, discuss it. I may be missing something. Well, what it is, there's a lot of coaches. Same thing. I don't believe in a prevent defense.
Right, and again, it's who you are. Because some coaches do.
Depending on how much time is left, they're going to get so close to where you're going to give it up anyway.
Richie's not wrong in what he's saying. I think what's interesting is that your front 4, sometimes 3, 5, whatever that particular call is. There's certain down and distances where attack mode makes more sense, and there's certain down and distances where playing gap responsibility does. Okay, and I think that's fair. And then also through tendency, knowing the coordinator that you're going up against, will help that, right? And so Richie's not wrong in what he's saying. Chiswick does, and he's very good at what he does. He's very, very good. The issue is when you don't have two interior guys, and Andrew and I have talked about this with Clemson a few years ago when they had those 4 front guys that were just unbelievable. When your two interior guys can actually control both gaps that they're playing in, life becomes a lot better for the defensive ends and the inside linebackers, okay? And what I mean by that is they're allowed to play instead of A to C on their sides, A gap to C gap. The backers are now B to outside. So you can put a little bit faster backer in, all right, in that 4-man front. I'm just giving an example. Richie's not wrong in what he's saying. The problem is that I see with the guys when I watch, and again, this is just an opinion. I'm not. But the thing that I see is that there's no attack style mentality or a lack thereof, or maybe an inability to do this on certain second downs, that are intermediate, where you can create a 3rd and long. Second down from what I've observed over the last how many ever years in high school football is the most important down in football, because if you're 2nd and 5 and you end up 3rd and 9, you got problems. If you're 2nd and 5, you end up 3rd and 1 or 3rd and 5, you're okay because it's manageable. 3rd down has to be manageable, and getting teams out of a manageable 3rd down is what gets you off the field and gets your offense back.
There was a guy that used to coach here at Maiden like for 700 years.
Fred Burner.
No. Tom Brown. Tom Brown said the key is to, if you're on offense, to stay ahead of the chains, and if you're on defense, keep the offense behind the chains, which is exactly what you're saying.
Absolutely.
It's because it changes the playbook is what it does. Now, from a defensive standpoint, talking about what you're talking about, Richie, this is what I like to do on a defensive side. I like to either run in a 5-2 or a 4-3, and my responsibility for my up front guys, and this was the part that was hard to get through kids' head, my up front defensive linemen, I wanted gap control. I wanted occupying as many linemen as you can. Okay, so that my second level was free to run and make the plays. Yeah. Those were the ones that needed to make the plays. If you can get a push and get that offensive line backing up, then there's no holes for them. They've got to do something else, and your backers can scrape. That's always been important to me. And even when I played in a 5-2, the one thing that we were never supposed to do as a defensive tackle, you never let your tackle down on linebackers.
Right.
You do not let your tackles release down to linebackers. Whatever you do, that was your first responsibility, because that second level needed to be able to play. I always said that. That's why at one time the Carolina Panthers, they were really good on defense, but they had the world's worst secondary, but the secondary never had to make plays.
No,
because the front, there was so much push
seven were
that
fine.
you didn't have to worry about the down the field play.
I agree with everything you said.
But it's all about talent. Okay, it's about the players. If you don't have linemen, linemen can make that push, you got to figure out a different scheme.
Well, and the whole thing too is, Lenny, is and you're right about that. And we've talked about Coach Cloninger at Lincoln, their years where they may change their offense completely,
everything
based on or whatever based on what they got. To me, you've got in theory what you'd like to do, but then you've got to make adjustments based on what you can. You
got to evaluate what you're capable of.
And from a defensive standpoint, I personally. I'm an odd front guy, okay? But I will do what I need to do with the kids.
Yeah.
And at any time, if people come watch our game, at any time, they'll see our what we call our Sam linebacker, who's Quinn, my boy. Mm-hmm. At any time, you'll see him drop down to a 5 technique, and we'll have one single backer. And then we're all of a sudden in a very powerful four-man front with 2 dirty outside linemen. So it almost turns into a 6-1. And then, of course,
my 4-3 would look like that up front. It would look like an old 6-1.
But what's important is that because the team we have, our 3-4 scheme has been very solid for us, because our defense is structured based on our kids, to where our 2 defensive defensive tackles ends will make a majority of the tackles, and then the 2 inside linebackers should be next. And that's the way it's worked on the sheet for us, the last 3 years. In theory, because we move our fronts, right? They don't do a lot of moving in college football. And what I mean by that is I'm talking about the whole front, all right? Because you can zone block things. The linemen are a little bigger. And a little, you practice 2 hours a day on one thing. Where in high school ball, that doesn't happen a whole lot.
You got to do it all.
So anyway, yeah.
Todd said, by the way, Western had a winning season.
Yes, they did.
And how does a 9-2 Florida A&M not make the FCS playoffs? Only loss was to Carolina and Dion's team. Andrew said, Four could say bad coaching, LOL. I've had the privilege of having a front row seat for most of the Maiden kids' careers. I'll give credit where it's due. He's done an exceptional job with them, especially with managing their progression across the entire season. Yeah. Richie said it comes down to technique and fundamentals. You're right, Richie. I see pad level wrong and hand fighting wrong. That comes down to position coaching. They don't do a lot of technique coaching anymore, that especially in college. Link says it's about backs with speed. You can't coach speed. That's correct. Milton said a big issue is 11 individuals playing as individuals instead of playing as a team. Yeah. Rich said, case in point, Sam Hartman, quarterback for Wake Forest, is a great quarterback. When the defense blitzes Hartman, has a 95% accuracy rate. When he gets pressured, actual pressure, his accuracy rate drops to 65%.
Yeah.
That's what pressure does to good quarterbacks.
Yes.
I'm agreeing with you and do what you have the kids to do talent that you have talent for.
Right. That's a great observation.
Well, but here's the thing, and I told you what makes the decision, like when we were at Bunker, whether we were a 4-3 or a 3-4, do I have 4 great linemen and 3 good linebackers, or do I have 4 great linebackers and 3 good linemen? You got to decide on what those players are. And it's not like it used to be.
You're right. And things, I think one thing, too, that I've seen over the years and, through trial and error and a lot of error is that just because one kid may be the best player that you have on your team for that position doesn't make the team the best it can be, because they may be needed in another position that would have more influence. And
I played kids where they had the best and most impact for the team.
And
maybe not exactly their ideal position, but they had a –
But that's the 80-20 rule again. Yeah. Where talent is looked at – when people flip the 80-20 and believe everything is about talent, that's when chaos will ensue, because talent is abstract. Until it is realized, all right, and for the benefit of all those involved, then it becomes concrete. And the only way to do that, style versus substance. I'd say this. I know I'm sorry where everybody out with this, but one has to understand that, whether it be in sports or anything else. It's the goose and the golden egg. It's what I was telling the kids that the story the other day. About that, we watch film. I watch defensive film with the guys on Tuesday before practice for about 15 minutes, and I always give them about a 3-minute, whatever it is that day, whatever.
Philosophical.
Whatever.
Waxing philosophical.
Be, just to try to help them out. I told them, there's a lot going. Like the other day, I gave them an example of the tax code. I drew the box that has, it's got the 4 squares in it, and I put employees, self-employed, and over here I put business owners and investors. And I explained to him, I said, you have a lot of people that scream about guys like Warren Buffett and never pay taxes. I said, that's insane. All right? It's all about how you are taxed according to the tax code, right? It doesn't mean that these people don't pay taxes. It means they have deductions that are put in place by IRS laws. But yet we got people screaming that things aren't fair. Rewrite the laws. I mean, what I'm trying to do is help kids gain a perspective instead of just going out and screaming about something they don't know anything about.
Right.
Because that's not helping them be the best they can be. What's that got to do with football? If you have a fundamental understanding of where anything comes from, and understand
the concept of how it works is the big picture.
And that's what I'm trying. Yeah. Defensively, that was the whole point of explaining to them just that certain section is, it's important to understand the foundation of things before you go out and start screaming what everybody else is screaming. Run the ball, throw the ball, blitz this guy, do that. I mean, it has nothing to do with it. When I look at a kid, I want to say, number one, how hard does that kid work at what they're doing? How much time do they spend in the weight room? Okay? we all have choices. We got kids that work really hard in the weight room, and we got kids at work, that come play football. That's okay. But it's all about the growth and development and the preparation for that.
The rest of it will take care of itself.
But the thing about it is, opportunity will present itself when effort and desire and efficiencies become present. When you're invested into something, then it's very likely that it will grow.
Mm-hmm.
The most poisonous plant in the world is nightshade. It can grow in your garden just as good as anything else if you water it and feed it, okay? So you got to be very careful on what kind of plants you're growing in your garden, whether or not they're going to end up killing somebody or they're going to help you stay healthy. And that's what anyway, thanks. No, sorry.
It's okay. We're going to do the gardening show at 10:30 if you want to tune in. It's about watering and gardening.
Oh, God.
It's okay.
Cultivation.
In case you missed it last night, I thought it was an ugly game. It was raining. It was in Mexico City, and the guys couldn't breathe because it was 8,300 feet altitude.
It's unbelievable, dude. And those fans, what I thought was really cool is the lady sang the national anthem, and she did a great job. And then when they sang the Mexico national anthem, you could hear the whole stadium singing it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm going to tell you something. There's something to be said for that. It was a good setting, and I'm glad those people, in Mexico.
At least that's not as bad with the travel lag going down.
Right.
That's just a couple-hour flight for about anybody.
But just nobody could breathe.
Yeah. San Francisco came out on top. They defeated Arizona last night, 38-10. Just in case you missed it.
They got a good team. And who's their quarterback?
At
San Francisco.
That G guy, not your G, the other G.
I'm just
Jimmy G. All he does is win.
Kind
of like Taylor Heineke.
Never said a
All
word.
He does is win.
Never said anything.
All
Guy
he
structures
does is
contract. Hey, if I end up playing,
yeah,
this is what I'd like. Okay, we'll sign you for a year. Why would Jimmy G do that? He needs to go somewhere and play. That dude's going to the Super Bowl.
Playing. He's
okay,
playing. That would not surprise me. Yeah, not surprise me. I'll be here in the morning, if not just for briefly. We'll see. My man Jamal Horton's going to join me on a call-in.
Fantastic.
He did a great article about the kid from Mount Pleasant that had the stroke.
Yeah.
And I wanted to get an update on that. He writes for the Concord paper, and he did a story, and I think that's a great human interest story.
Yeah, Jamal's a good guy.
Yeah,
man.
Jamal's
really
the best.
Yeah,
he's the man.
Good guy, man.
Yep. All right, we're going to get out of here. Have a great Tuesday.
Happy Thanksgiving.
And we'll see you later.